The wine glass shattered against the wall behind me, red liquid staining my white dress like blood. The elegant restaurant fell silent, other diners turning to stare at our family drama unfolding in the private dining room. My name is Emma Sullivan, and this was the moment I finally stood up to my family's manipulation. How dare you refuse to help your brother? Dad's face was purple with rage, his fist still clenched from throwing the glass. Mom clutched my brother Michael's arm, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. The golden boy of the family sat there smirking, knowing his parents would fight his battles as they always had. "Those shares are worth millions now," Michael said, his voice dripping with entitlement. "It's not fair that you got them just because you were Grandpa's favorite." I touched the wine staining my dress, remembering the day Grandpa had called me to his office 5 years ago. He was dying then, but his mind was sharp as ever. "Emma," he'd said, "I'm leaving you my shares in Sullivan Tech. Not because you're my favorite, but because you're the only one who understands what it means to build something from nothing." He was right. While Michael partied through college on our parents' dime, I'd worked alongside Grandpa, learning every aspect of the company he'd built from the ground up. When he died, everyone expected his shares to be split equally between his grandchildren. The shock on their faces when the will was read still brought a smile to my face. "Your brother's startup is failing," Mom pleaded, pulling me back to the present. "He just needs a small investment. If you transfer your shares to him." "Small investment?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "My shares are worth $50 million. There's nothing small about that." "You never appreciated what this family gave you," Dad spat, reaching for another wine glass. A waiter wisely removed the bottle from the table. "Everything was handed to you on a silver platter, and now you won't even help your own brother." The irony of his words hit me like a physical blow. Handed to me? I'd spent my college years working part-time at Sullivan Tech, starting in the mailroom. Every summer while Michael vacationed in Europe, I was learning coding, attending business meetings, earning Grandpa's respect. After graduation, when Michael started his string of failed ventures, I was putting in 80-hour weeks, helping transform Sullivan Tech from a regional player to a national powerhouse. Handed to me? I stood up, my voice steady despite the anger coursing through me. "Let's talk about what was handed out in this family. Michael's first startup. The one that burned through $2 million of your money in 6 months. His finding himself year in Asia that cost you your retirement savings. Or maybe we should discuss the gambling debts he secretly paid off last year." Michael's smirk faltered. Mom gasped. "How did you?" "I know everything," I cut her off. "I'm on the board of Sullivan Tech now, remember? I see all the loans, all the withdrawals, every desperate attempt to fund Michael's mistakes. Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" "That's different," Dad blustered, but I could see the fear in his eyes. "We're family. We help each other." "Family?" I picked up my purse, pulling out my phone. "You haven't been family to me since Grandpa died. I was just a backup plan, a safety net for your precious son. But that ends tonight." I showed them my phone screen, displaying an email I'd sent an hour ago. "I've called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. I'm sure you'll find the agenda interesting." "What are you talking about?" Michael's voice cracked, his confidence finally slipping. "Check tomorrow's news," I said, turning to leave. "Oh, and Michael, happy birthday. Consider this my gift to you, a chance to finally stand on your own feet." As I walked out of the restaurant, I heard Mom calling my name, Dad cursing, and Michael demanding to know what I'd done. But I didn't look back. Tomorrow, they'd learn that I'd spent the last year quietly buying up additional shares in Sullivan Tech. Tomorrow, they'd discover that I now controlled 51% of the company. Tomorrow, they'd realize that their perfect son's safety net was gone. I got into my car, finally allowing myself to shake as the adrenaline wore off. My phone buzzed with angry messages, but I ignored them all except one, from my assistant confirming that everything was ready for tomorrow's meeting. "It's done," I texted back. "Make sure the press release goes out at 9 a.m. sharp." Grandpa had always said that success was the best revenge. Tomorrow, I prove him right once again. The next morning, I sat in my office at Sullivan Tech, watching the chaos unfold. The press release had gone out exactly at 9 a.m. Sullivan Tech announces major restructuring. Board votes to end all personal loans to former executives and their families. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since. Mom had left 12 voicemails, each more hysterical than the last. Dad's messages had devolved from threats to desperate pleas. Michael, predictably, was alternating between rage and attempts at manipulation. Miss Sullivan. My assistant Sarah poked her head in. Your parents are in the lobby. Security wants to know how to proceed. I checked my watch, 10:15 a.m. Earlier than I expected, but I was ready. Let them up. And Sarah, start the recording. 5 minutes later, my office door burst open. Dad stormed in, his face even redder than last night. Mom followed, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. How could you do this to us? Mom's voice trembled. To your own family? I leaned back in my chair, Grandpa's chair, and gestured to the seats across from me. Please sit. We should discuss this professionally. Professionally? Dad exploded. You've frozen all our accounts. The credit cards, the loans, everything. Not your accounts, I corrected calmly. Company accounts that were being misused for personal expenses. The board agreed unanimously that it had to stop. We're your parents. And this is a publicly traded company, not a family piggy bank. Do you know what the shareholders would say if they knew how much money you funneled to Michael's failed ventures? Mom sank into a chair, her face pale. But Michael's new startup, he needs that funding. He's counting on it. Michael needs to learn to stand on his own feet, just like I did. This is about last night, isn't it? Dad's voice turned wheedling. We were all upset, things got out of hand. But we can fix this, Princess. Just unfreeze the accounts and we'll forget it ever happened. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. These are the records of every loan, every withdrawal, every penny that's been diverted to Michael over the past 5 years. Total amount, $23.7 million. They stared at the numbers in shock. I continued. The board has voted to recall all outstanding loans. You have 30 days to begin repayment. Repayment. Mom's voice rose to a shriek. We can't possibly. We don't have that kind of money. Then I suggest you start selling assets. The vacation house in Aspen might be a good start. Or Michael's collection of luxury cars. Dad's face turned purple again. You ungrateful little. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me? I stood up slowly. Let's talk about that. When I graduated college, you forgot to come to the ceremony because Michael had a hangover. When I made VP at 25, you missed the announcement because you were bailing Michael out of another failed investment. When Grandpa died, you were too busy consoling Michael about his lost inheritance to even check if I was okay. That's not fair, Mom protested weakly. No, what's not fair is watching you drain this company, Grandpa's legacy, to enable Michael's irresponsibility. That ends today. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Michael's here. Right on cue, my brother burst into the office, waving his phone. Have you seen what she's done? He shouted at our parents. The investors for my new tech startup just pulled out. They saw the press release and canceled everything. I smiled. Imagine that. Investors getting nervous about backing someone with a history of failed ventures and no actual business experience. You planned this. He lunged toward my desk, but security had followed him in. They grabbed his arms, holding him back. Remove him, I ordered. And escort our parents up too. They don't have authorization to be here anymore. You can't do this. Michael struggled against the guards. Mom, Dad, tell her she can't do this. But I could see it in their faces. They finally realized they had no power here anymore. As security led them out, I called after them. The board meets again next week. We'll be discussing the company's legal options for recovering misappropriated funds. I suggest you all get lawyers. After they were gone, I sank back into my chair, emotionally drained but satisfied. Sarah brought me a coffee and a small smile. Your grandfather would be proud, she said quietly. I touched the photo of Grandpa on my desk, remembering his last words to me. Emma, sometimes the hardest part of running a business is knowing when to cut ties, even with family, especially with family. I know, I replied. But this isn't over yet. They'll try something else. They always do. Sarah nodded. Well, whatever comes next, we're ready for it. I turned to look out my office window at the city below. She was right. We were ready. And for the first time in years, I felt truly in control of my own destiny. 3 months after the board meeting that changed everything, I sat in my office reviewing the latest financial reports. The company's stock had risen 30% since we cleaned up the books and stopped the familial bleeding of resources. But my family predictably hadn't gone quietly into the night. First came the media campaign. Mom gave tearful interviews to local newspapers about her ungrateful daughter, who destroyed the family. Michael played the victim on social media, painting himself as an innovative entrepreneur crushed by corporate greed. Dad tried to rally old business contacts against me. None of it worked. Miss Sullivan. Sarah interrupted my thoughts. You should see this. She handed me her tablet, displaying a news article. My brother's smiling face stared back at me beneath the headline. Michael Sullivan announces new venture. Claims to have inside knowledge of Sullivan Tech's corrupt practices. I couldn't help but laugh. Let me guess. He's threatening to expose how the company has been mishandling funds. Yes, Sarah nodded. But here's the interesting part. He's seeking investors for a competing tech company, using the threat of exposing Sullivan Tech as leverage. Perfect. I pressed the intercom. Get legal on the line. It's time for phase 2. What my family didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment for months. Every loan, every misused company fund, every instance of their financial misconduct. I had it all documented. More importantly, I had proof that Michael had attempted to use confidential company information to manipulate investors. The next morning, as Michael was holding a press conference to announce his new venture, our lawyers served him with a cease and desist order and a lawsuit for attempted corporate espionage. Mom called within minutes. How could you sue your own brother? The same way you could stand by and watch him try to destroy Grandpa's legacy. I replied calmly. How's the house hunting going? I heard the Aspen property sold well below market value. She hung up on me. The lawsuit made headlines, but not in the way Michael had hoped. Instead of exposing corporate corruption, he exposed himself. Former investors came forward with stories of his failed ventures. Business partners revealed his pattern of deception. His carefully crafted image crumbled. Dad made one last attempt at reconciliation, showing up at my office unannounced. Princess, he began, using the old nickname that once meant something. This has gone far enough. You've made your point, but we're still family. I looked at him, and saw not the intimidating figure of my childhood, but a tired old man who'd invested everything in the wrong child. No, Dad, we stopped being family the moment you threw that wine glass at me. The moment you demanded I sacrifice my future for Michael's past mistakes. The moment you chose him over and over again. We never chose. Save it. I held up my hand. The lawsuit against Michael proceeds. The loan repayment schedule stands. And if any of you try to contact me again outside of legal channels, I'll release everything. Every document, every record, every piece of evidence I have. Are we clear? He left without another word. A week later, I received an unexpected letter. It was from my grandfather's old attorney, dated 5 years ago, to be delivered after certain conditions were met. Dear Emma, it read, if you're reading this, you've finally done what I always knew you could. Taken control not just of the company, but of your own destiny. Your family will call you cruel, ungrateful, heartless. But remember this, true leadership isn't about being liked. It's about doing what's necessary, even when it hurts. I didn't leave you the shares because you were my favorite. I left them to you because you understand that a legacy is something you build, not something you spend. I'm proud of you, little one. Always have been. Love, Grandpa. I wiped away tears I hadn't realized were falling. That evening I walked through the Sullivan Tech offices, seeing it with new eyes. Employees nodded respectfully as I passed. There was no more whispered drama about the Sullivan family, no more speculation about which of Michael's ventures would drain resources next. Sarah met me at my office door. The board's quarterly report is ready. Profits are up 40% since the restructuring. Send copies to our shareholders, I pause, and one to my parents' house. They should see what the company can do without dead weight. She smiled knowingly. Already done. Looking out over the city lights, I thought about legacy, not just Grandpa's, but my own. Michael had wanted success handed to him. Our parents had enabled his entitlement. But true success, like respect, had to be earned. I picked up Grandpa's photo from my desk. We did it, I whispered. We protected your legacy, and I built my own. My phone buzzed. Another news alert about Michael's failing lawsuit. I turned off the phone without reading it. Some chapters needed to stay closed. The future was calling, and for once I could answer without looking back.